Hello, hello, hello. How are you, my beloved friends and citizens of the Kleros Republic? 12th of August 2026. How are you, Jean?
Doing great, and you?
I'm doing great. Do you have a haircut or is it me? No.
No, just another headphones.
Oh, change of headphones. Okay. Okay, so we have a very special day today at the community call. We have one of the, I would call oldest community members of Kleros, and the only person that did the fellowship twice in the history of the fellowship. So usually we don't accept people twice because we already have lots of applicants and we try to give room to everyone. But in this case, we actually had an exception because so this person she made her first research on fellowship about tokenization a few years ago, and then last year we were interested in understanding a bit more about Portuguese arbitration ecosystem and how Kleros could, be used in consumer arbitration in Portugal. So we actually went to her to ask her to apply to the fellowship again. So because that's how top of mind she is in the Portuguese market. So well, if you don't know her, so she's Inés Braganza Gaspar, and she's one of the oldest, the oldest community member of Kleros in Portugal, I think. Hello, Inés, how are you?
Hello, doing well, thank you.
Tell us before your presentation. Tell us a bit about you. How did you first hear about Kleros? How long have you been following the project? Yeah, tell us a bit about you.
Okay, so I am a Portuguese lawyer, and when I was researching about topics for my master thesis back in 2018, 2019, I discovered about blockchain technology and a concept that was still very, very early at the time, which was decentralized justice. I think that Federico coined that term actually. So
Yeah.
I was writing about it before it was even a reality. And yeah, that's how I discovered Kleros, that at the time was already the more developed solution in the market, although it was still very, very early. And then, yeah, I've been following Kleros ever since 2019. I participated in the 2023 fellowship, and now Kleros invited me to participate a second time. And I'm very happy to share my ongoing research with everyone that is watching us.
That's great. Well, you can share your screen and then start the presentation and tell us about what your research was about so the community can know a bit more. Yeah, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. So, on my ongoing research for the Kleros Fellowship, I explored if and how Kleros could be integrated into Portugal's consumer arbitration system. I think you can see my second slide. Exactly. Okay, so the working title of my research is Decentralized Justice and Consumer Arbitration, Exploring the Integration of Kleros into Portugal's Alternative Dispute Resolution Framework. I know the title is a bit long, but I think it captures very well the essence of the research. And I had 5 main questions driving my research. So first, to what extent are consumer arbitration centers in Portugal used by citizens and how effective they are? To answer this question, I looked into statistics, publicly available statistics on the use of consumer arbitration centers, and also different analysis and surveys, such as user satisfaction survey. Then the second question was how Kleros could be integrated into the existing legal framework. and if it could be integrated in the operations of consumer arbitration centers as an internal tool. So besides this option, as I will show you, I also came up with other alternatives for the integration of Kleros. And then I think you all know how Kleros works, but how can Kleros' main characteristics be reconciled with the existing legal requirements? And finally, I came up with a strategy or like a step plan for engaging arbitration centers and regulators. So just to start off with some brief context on the Portuguese consumer arbitration framework. First, consumer protection is a constitutionally recognized right in Portugal. Arbitration is not exactly new, so it has already been incorporated into the Portuguese legal system back in 1986. But there is an important distinction to make, which is between voluntary arbitration, where parties freely agree to submit their disputes to an arbitral tribunal, versus mandatory arbitration. In Portuguese, it is called arbitragem necessária, and it is a type of arbitration that is required by law, and it allows consumers to initiate proceedings, arbitration proceedings, without the other party's consent. And in 2019, the scope of mandatory arbitration was expanded, because before it was only allowed for certain areas. For example, it's in essential services such as disputes related to water, electricity, or gas supply. And in 2019, this was significantly expanded to also cover reduced economic value consumer disputes. So those disputes that have a value of up to 5,000 euros. And in these types of disputes, once the consumer submits their dispute to a legally authorized center, the company or the supplier of the product or service is obligated to take part in the arbitration proceeding. Moving on to consumer arbitration centers, there are currently around 40 arbitration centers in Portugal. And 12 of them are authorized to handle consumer disputes. And these centers are private non-profit institutions. They are responsible with informing consumers of their rights and obligations, and they are also able to resolve disputes through either mediation, conciliation, or arbitration. In order to create a consumer arbitration center, it needs to have an authorization for the government, and they are supervised by national entities. And just a few interesting statistics that I further explore on my research. Last year in 2025, around more than 12,000 new cases were filed with consumer alternative dispute resolution entities, and there was a growth of 17% of new cases in 2025. So these upward trends are very relevant for my research, because it shows that consumer arbitration centers are indeed being used more and more. And now just moving on to Kleros, and before analyzing whether Kleros could fit into the Portuguese system, in my research, I also highlight the cases where Kleros was already used to solve consumer disputes in the real world. So as I'm sure all of you know, Kleros has various subcourts. There is not yet a dedicated e-commerce subcourt, but certain companies have already embedded Kleros in their own platforms to solve consumer disputes. One of the most well-known cases is Lemon Cash. So in 2024, Lemon Cash integrated Kleros into its dispute resolution process. So in practice, users, they first submit a complaint through customer support. Like usually, they file in a form describing the dispute. They can upload their evidence. And then if the user disagrees with what Lemon Cache decides, then they can escalate their disputes to Kleros. And then Kleros' jurors issue a decision within 5 business days. And if the user claim prevails, then Lemon Cache must comply with this decision. But if Lemon Cache prevails, the user can still go to a small claims court. So using Kleros is just like an added layer. And the results have been very interesting. I also explore a few of the statistics that were provided by Lemon Cache, and there are also some other pilot projects. For example, in insurance, a company called MetLife Mexico is also currently testing Kleros for insurance-related disputes, and Maldo.ui, which is a Uruguayan peer-to-peer services marketplace, is also researching how Kleros can be used to resolve disputes between freelancers and their clients. So based on my research, I have identified 4 possible models for integrating Kleros into the Portuguese consumer arbitration framework. These models are not mutually exclusive, so they can be implemented together, or different arbitration centers can implement different solutions. So the first model would be to use Kleros as a fact-finding or evidence assessment layer. So arbitrators could submit to Kleros jurors certain factual questions. For example, was the product delivered as described? Did it arrive without defects? Was it delivered on time? The second model would be integrating Kleros directly into e-commerce platforms. So I also identified that in Portugal, clothing and footwear and home delivered meals were among the most frequently purchased products online in 2025. And normally these platforms use chatbots or automated systems that have very limited human oversight to solve consumer disputes. So maybe integrating Kleros and having real human jurors deciding on the disputes, just like on the Lemon Cache example, could be one of the solutions. Then the third model would be creating a specialized digital arbitration chamber within existing consumer arbitration centers. And the fourth model would just be a technical partnership. So instead of using Kleros to be embedded into the dispute resolution system, other Kleros developed technologies could be used to support these consumer arbitration centers. And then I also identified a few barriers to integration. So this is the topic where some more research is still needed. But I based this on also some international precedents that I identified. So Mexico in 2024 was the first country to expressly recognize decentralized justice in its legal framework. So actually the Mexican law recognizes in its general law on alternative dispute resolution mechanisms certain methods such as decentralized justice, smart contracts, open collaboration systems, and automated processes. So my first barrier that I identified, which is that the Portuguese consumer ADR law does not recognize centralized or blockchain-based dispute resolution, could be solved through a legal reform such as the one that was enacted in Mexico. Then I also identified 2 other constraints or barriers that are kind of linked between each other, which is financial constraints and also lack of digital literacy. In my report, I have a few statistics on the digital literacy of Portuguese consumers and also of Portuguese companies. I also identify in my report a test pilot that is being done also in Argentina with Kleros. And then So the conclusion that I reached is that, well, none of the obstacles that I identified are insurmountable. And I developed this roadmap for a pilot integration. So the first phase would be to approach consumer arbitration centers, talk with them, map their needs, understand if they would be willing to integrate new technologies. Then the second phase would be to design and to test with only a few arbitration centers, the ones that agree to have like a very specific and well-defined use case. And then after that test pilot phase was done, we would present the evidence to the competent authorities and open the discussion on what is necessary to make this work. So that is all I have to present to you today. My research paper will be published, I believe, soon, so you can read more about it. And if you want, you can scan this code to connect with me on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Thank you, Inés. That was great. Well, people will be able to read the report very soon, as you mentioned. I have a question after seeing your presentation. Maybe, I don't know if you have an answer, but maybe there was a 17% increase in cases sent to arbitration centers in Portugal. Do we know why this is happening? Is people becoming more litigious, or I don't know?
I think there's probably two main reasons. The first one is that there's been a big push in the last years for people to go through these alternative dispute resolution methods. So the government itself has announced as one of their in their like strategy roadmap for this year, for 2026, it was getting the citizens to use more the alternative dispute resolution methods. We can see ads on television saying, do you have a dispute? You can submit it to the consumer arbitration centers. So there's been lots of more publicity, because not everyone knows about this. When people have a dispute with a company, they sometimes think that their only way is to go through the traditional courts, and those take many years. They have a big case backlog, and arbitration centers, these types of arbitration centers, are very low cost, or even free. So there's been a big push for that. That is one of the reasons. And the second reason, I would say, it's because of the increase of people just buying more things and using more services. And so it's not really people being more litigious, but it's just the increase also in consumption of goods and services, which is what consumer disputes are.
So there are different ways in which Kleros can implement it, and you mentioned them very well. Like one of them is partnering with arbitration centers. Another one is like partnering with consumer offices, like what we do in Junín, for example. They use Kleros for assisting their decision-making cases that involve consumer claims. Other cases are like partnering with private companies, like what we do with Lemon. And you mentioned, what do you think is more likely to happen in the short term, like in Portugal? What of those paths do you think is more likely to?
I think probably a solution like Lemon Cash. So approaching the private companies first would probably work better, because, well, these companies are more used to or more comfortable in implementing these types of technologies, whereas governmental supported arbitration centers are probably not focused on technology. They already have their own issues. They also have the financial constraints that I mentioned. So I would say a company, and I identify some of these companies on my report. For example, like food delivering apps, where they have I don't know, probably thousands and thousands of user complaints every day, and they are being solved by chatbots that are not really understanding what the consumer actual issue is. So I think it would probably be more likely for a private company to adopt one of these solutions than the other approaches that I identified, other solutions.
All right, maybe I can ask one question, Ines. I think
Sure.
something that I found really interesting about the report is that the arbitration centers can be formed by arbitrators that are not necessarily nationals from Portugal. So, do you think that this could allow some kind of setup in which arbitrators from different parts of the world that might have more, detailed expertise in some kind of subject, and you could have, for example, arbitration centers that deal with specific disputes, and they can tap on specific pool of arbitrators, and this becoming like a more specialized arbitration setup. Do you think this is something that could be done? Do you think it could be useful?
For sure. So any individual with full legal capacity can be appointed as an arbitrator, regardless of nationality. This is according to the law. But the parties to the dispute can agree that arbitrators must possess like specific qualifications or expertise or experience. So I think that as the digital economy evolves and people begin purchasing more goods and services online, for example, and even types of services that maybe are not so common today. So as disputes become more digitalized, and this is like one of the questions that I've been researching ever since my master's thesis in 2019 is if disputes are becoming more technological and digitalized, why are we still solving these disputes through the traditional route with lots of paper and going to court in person? So it doesn't really make any sense. So yeah, I definitely see that specialized, for example, specialized e-commerce chambers could be created, and this has already been this already exists in other countries. Right now in Portugal, there is not a consumer arbitration center that is only specialized, for example, in e-commerce, for example. So yeah, I definitely think that might happen in the future.
Interesting.
Ines, what does the law say in Portugal about anonymous jurors for the cases?
So that is that is not possible. I also talk about that in my report because the jurors need to like sign the arbitral decision, and yeah, but that is something that we could further explore. Also seeing how this is being done in the currently underway test pilots in Argentina, I think, and to see how that requirement was approached with the competent authorities.
Facu can explain how this works. There's a KYC process for juror. Yeah, explain, Facu, how this works in Argentina. He's frozen, I think. Okay, I can explain. So, are you there, Facu? Yeah.
I think he's back.
I don't know. You're back? Yeah. Can you explain how juror selection process works for Junín, with the KYC and the soulbound tokens? Because, it's not anonymous anymore in case it's needed.
Yeah, exactly. So In Junín cases, there is a specific court in Kleros, which is formed by jurors that are lawyers. And the way we do this is by using SBTs, soulbound tokens, that work as a kind of digital credential. And basically, this court basically prevents from anyone who does not have this SBT to be able to stay in court and be able to participate, become a juror in this court. So the thing is, okay, how do we KYC these jurors, and how do we make sure that we provide this SBT to the wallet that we know is under control of a person that meets these conditions, and that we know who this person is. So basically, this can be done in different ways. Now it's being done in a centralized way by the Kleros cooperative. So it's kind of a KYC process, and you, as a condition for granting the SBT, you also require that this juror agrees to certain terms and conditions. So this also provides another layer of confidentiality, specific
Trust.
type of. This can also be done in a more decentralized way as we move forward, and that's the idea. But this is more or less how it works right now, and this allows us to have more. Allows us to have courts that we know that these jurors meet certain conditions. So we could do the same with Portugal, with the consumer arbitration centers.
Yeah, I also explore a little bit on the soulbound tokens. Yeah, how arbitrators centers could also issue these soulbound tokens to the already existing arbitrators, and the soulbound token could have embedded the experience of because normally the arbitrators are also lawyers or professors of law or judges or jurists. So normally it's already people that have a certain experience and that are very recognized in specific areas of the law.
There you go. So, I mean, the early version of Kleros that, I mean, you knew in 2019 when you first approached the project, is still there in some way because the sharing point is still there. There still are courses like based on anonymous token, weighted voting and all that. But, also the protocol is way more flexible than what it was at the beginning. So this makes it able to address cases that were not possible in the beginning. For example, consumer arbitration in Portugal. So we hope that your report is going to be like the first step for more adoption in Portugal. So I'm super happy that we got to have you do another fellowship with us. So yeah, I mean, and the report is great. So I recommend everyone to read it if you are into consumer arbitration, not only in Portugal, because you can still apply because the 10th cohort applications for the fellowship is open now. So if you are into this, the goal was this to motivate you to do this same type of research in your country, in your jurisdiction, to see how Kleros can be implemented in whatever country you happen to live in. Apply because this is the type of research we want to foster for having higher adoption. Inés,
I highly recommend. No, I highly recommend the Kleros Fellowship as the only person that has participated twice. I highly recommend it to anyone that wants to explore about the possibilities of decentralized justice, just as Federico said, in your own country or in a specific area of law. And you don't need to be lawyers like me to do this research. Some of my other fellows they were like mathematicians and economists. So yeah, it's open to everyone that is interested in this area.
Inés, thank you very much for coming, and your report will be very soon online for everyone to read. Okay, great seeing you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, let's continue now with Jean. What do you think? That's amazing, right? She's great. You're mute. Yeah.
Maybe for
Yeah.
I was thinking that maybe for the next fellowship, we need to create a rule that Inés will not participate.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we will keep inviting her.
A curated list.
No, it's great.
She can definitely. I mean, hopefully we have more topics for her because she's great. So like, yeah, she's like she's the OG of the fellowship now. I mean, the only one that got like a two, and we will bring her at some point to speak a bit about the other topic that was real world assets and tokenization. But so that's for another discussion. There are so many use cases for Kleros that you can stop. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too because that area right now is like really growing a lot. It's almost, I would say, one of the main areas in blockchain right now. So I think Inés also have a really good taste in topics because it's really good research. So okay, we have William here. Hey, William.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, William. How are you?
I'm good. Good.
Nice talk. For those who are not here, I mean, Monday he delivered a talk about privacy in Spanish, in the community call in Spanish. So that was an awesome performance, William. Good job.
Thank you.
Well, tell us what's this week topics. Research. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So the talk on Monday was about confidential data and like how can a system like Kleros handle data that's private, evidence is private. I gave the same talk basically last week here in English in this community call. And very soon there will be a blog article version of these ideas, which is even like a slightly longer version of like the toolbox of different ideas, what can take, and goes a bit more into depth. So you'll be able to read this soon. I look forward to sharing this with you. So I mean, that's the main thing. We're still like thinking about our various like AI research. There are AI aspects in the privacy things as well. But that's sort of like the main theme for this past week.
We just published today. Maybe you can share the note here on the screen. An article where William also contributed a bit about AI and Kleros and our thesis of how AI and Kleros will interact and are interacting already. And the thesis that we have developed for like 10 years already. When the first time we wrote about this was in the Dodgers on trial. Experiment we did, and then after we did that, we ran some tests with like AI face recognition. I don't want to say face recognition, but dog recognition algorithm to see if they could identify the dog or not dog. And then that was 2019, and this is when we developed our first thesis about how Kleros and AI will interact. And so lots of things happened after that. Harmony, using AI as a mediator to onboard cases. And then AI models as judges, for example, like you have different AI models that make different decisions about cases. And we ran an experiment with Lemon that was published a few weeks ago by Walter Kluwer. Depends on what model you use, you will get different answers. So this is a really, really long blog post, where we summarized a lot of our research and how we imagine the mechanism to work in the future. And we had like three main things. I would say our thesis about AI has three main topics. One of them is that for high complexity cases and high nuance, where there is subjectivity, there is the need of understanding the moral context of some decision, we will not have. This is still going to be done by humans because they are those who only can solve these cases. Then for like more like lower value, middle complexity, we will have a combination of AI and humans, and we will have like these AI models making decisions, and we'll still need to figure out what is the right way to do it, because maybe you have like one first decision made by AIs, but then you have to appeal to a human because you don't want an AI to make just a final decision that could be dystopian. And then for the third main thing of the thesis is that we are about to enter a part of the economy where we are going to see disputes of a nature the humanity has never seen before, like agent-to-agent disputes, agent-to-human disputes, and disputes that will need extremely high velocity of resolution. And this is something we are exploring now. And so dispute between an agent suing another agent, going to a panel of agents, making a decision about that case through an escrow or through a reputation system. We are very much exploring how escrows work in this type of settings and how reputation of agents will work, in the sense that agents could use the reputation as a collateral for asking a loan. Imagine like a very high velocity, high frequency loans from one agent to another, or like a working capital loans. I mean, I will give you this, but you pay me later. But hey, how do I know you will pay me later? So you could put your collateral as a reputation in some way. I mean, there's tons of stuff we are exploring, and you will see very soon announcements about this. And there are some things that are being cooking now as we speak. So yeah, this is I mean, something we have been working on for a very, very long time. We just needed in some way the world to catch up with some of these ideas, which seems to be happening now. I don't know, William, any comment? What's different from the point of view of mechanism between like agent to agent dispute compared to agent to humans dispute? I mean, why should this be different?
I mean, the big question is if there is a difference. On the behavioral economics, do the agents act differently than humans? I mean, they're trained on a human text. Maybe that all their sort of like weird behavioral quirks, partial rationality, like sort of like social effects are the same, and that their like behavioral economics is very similar to humans. Or maybe they're more homo economicacy and they kind of, act in like kind of profit maximizing super rational ways, somewhere in between. I think that the behavioral economics research on AIs, that this is an emerging field, has it depends a lot on the model, and like you have sort of results that are like, sometimes they act more, like very similar to humans, sometimes they're a little more homo economicacy. We've thought about, what experiments we can do in the context of Kleros. There are sometimes like very specific things that like the AI that are very special to AIs, that like, for example, in the talk I gave about privacy, having like an AI that has some kind of like material component so that it's just incapable of sharing information except in like certain ways. That's, like you can't do that with a human. To what degree are those like very limited but important differences important? How are we going to see those evolve? Lots of open questions.
I mean, do you think AIs, for example, will have biases, decisions like loss aversion bias, or sort of things we see in like behavioral economic stuff?
I mean, it depends on how they're trained. I think that the research on behavioral economics of AIs, it seems to indicate that yes, it looks to some extent.
One of the things that we discuss with William usually, is like, for me, one fascinating topic is this ultimatum game where you have like two parties. One of the parties has to make an offer to the other one. They have to split $100, and then the receiving party needs to accept or reject. If it accepts, it gets whatever is offered by the first one, and if it rejects, both get zero. So the rational theory, rational decision-making theory, basic economics said, okay, if the guy offers more than $1, I mean, the second party, should accept, because this is the rational thing is one is more than zero. So yeah, okay, take it. But what people see empirically is that in these experiments about the ultimatum game, they usually don't accept. I think the average is like they don't accept anywhere like under 30%. Offer under $30, they just go, screw you. You're going to give me like so little, you get zero now. This is what they. I think that the big exception to this is in some particular tribe in the Peruvian Amazon called the Machiguengas, about which Vargas Llosa writes a book called El Hablador. It's a tribe where they apparently is the only one that behaves in the predicted way of rational, like neoclassical economics, where they do accept hey, one is more than zero, so why not? It's free money, okay? So, but this is the only one. And because there is the thesis that they do, they have these researchers, and this comes from a book on behavioral game theory that they made all of this research of different tribes in different countries, different cultures, and then what they find is that apparently this tribe, they don't have like any kind of market integration. They don't have like a market economy. They are like only like families that just have reciprocity ties between themselves. So any interaction with the outside is almost non-existent. So they, so what, and the thesis they have is, these are anthropologists that make this type of research, is that they, like, when you have when you operate in a marketplace and you have to deal with people on that, so you start to develop some like understanding or some ideas about reputation, about reciprocity ideas between business partners. And if you offer one, and this results in ideas of fairness. If you offer one of 100, you will be seen as a cheap guy. I mean, like low reputation guy. So you would fear people will not want to interact with you, right? So like you start to. So this is the thesis. I don't know if it's true, but the question is, I don't know. Like, will AI agents also reject, an offer that seems to be higher than zero, but less than what they would think is fair? How much would they think is fair? I don't know, William. What do you think? What are we going to see here?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all that. Like, I think the people who've done this research, like in some cases, the AIs will reject, the very low offers. I mean, ultimately, this comes to like notions of justice, and like what notion of justice the AI has sort of simulated.
Yeah, so now go ahead.
Well, one interesting thing is that probably the AI has access to the entire all the books about game theory, all the experiments, like all the research about the game theory, and they should expect the other AIs to also have the access. So maybe that will be the equilibrium.
The best way to lose into like a coordination game is to learn game theory, because that's not how people think. I'm reading now, this Daniel Kahneman book about. I'm actually bugging William with lots of common knowledge situations. It's about like how coordination works with lots of, and they do lots of like experiments. I mean, Steven Pinker, that it's a Steven Pinker book. So he does like all of these experiments with, okay, what happens if you have these people want to go to a restaurant. They prefer to go with each other, but they also have a preference for the restaurant. So they have lots of these little games of game theory of how they coordinate and what one thinks, the other thinks, that I think, that he thinks. So it's about all of those things, and the chicken game and all that, and how common knowledge is helpful for society to work basically in a more or less efficient way. So these are the kind of things that are but the question is, okay, these are general topics about game theory and agents, of which we used to think at the beginning when we were starting our research that AIs would like behave like as a perfect, like John von Neumann, Oscar Morgenstern assumptions of perfect rationality. We don't think it's the case anymore. How will this affect decision making in Kleros? I mean, when an agent thinks how other agents are going to decide the case, even if they think that the Schelling point might be A, but maybe the fair thing to do would be like B, in their opinion. So, like, these are the type of topics that we have very much in our head now. I don't know, any thoughts about, this? I mean, would a bot vote for a decision they think is unfair just because it will make more money, or maybe they will like prefer to not? I don't know. What do you think?
Depends on the setup. Like, in terms of whether we think that the like AIs will act perfectly rational and like our evolution on our thoughts over time, like I still think if you have an adversary that like thinks that their perfectly rational tool is like the best way to exploit some vulnerability in the system by being like super rational and finding some like very small thing to zoom in on, they will be able to do that. And so I mean, the system needs to be robust against hyper rational actors. but you may have a bunch of like semi-rational actors that are kind of the average honest user. AIs are
okay. So guys, if you want to research this type of topics with William and with me, I mean, do apply to the fellowship, AI, decision making, Kleros. You can do cool experiments about like, okay, what if I use Claude to decide this dispute about consumer, about sending someone to jail? I mean, theoretically, you could use it if you want, and it's fine. ChatGPT, how it compares with like Gemini, how it compares with. So this is the type of topics that we are trying to research now. So the fellowship is open. So you can go from researching consumer dispute resolution in your country to like a very like cutting edge dispute between agents in like a virtual reality world that is going to be resolved by a panel made of agents and from different models or whatever. Anything else, William, you want to comment today?
I think that covers stuff.
Thank you, William. Okay, Jean, what do we have now? Anything else? You have like news about the project? I don't think I don't have anything special besides stuff about the since we mentioned about agentic economy. Yeah.
Let me share the page about the rewards that we published a video about this week. So here it is loading. Basically, we have a couple of reward programs. We have these jurors taking reward, which is around 14%, 15% for jurors staking Ethereum mainnet and Gnosis. It is distributed every month. We have the Scout Rewards program that rewards submissions to the Scout Rewards. So for people get rewarded for tagging new contracts, and new tokens, new pairs of domain and contracts, and this helps us like help block explorers have more information about what people are using. And we also have rewards for people register and Proof of Humanity. I think there's a limit of people, but the first, I think, 1,000 people get an amount in PMK. And one interesting thing about the curate rewards specifically is that Marino created a page that shows the information in a way that makes it easy to like understand how these rewards are becoming entries into the registry. And these entries, of course, correspond to contracts and tokens registered. And basically the cost that we have for getting submissions. So in
that's great.
You can see that the cost is going down. And there's another thing.
That could be, Jim. That could be people using more AI for this, right? So in the case that they can do the sourcing of information through AI, and this brings the cost down, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there is something like that involved, maybe for finding the contracts or making like pre-checking, because right now it's a lot easier. Remember that at some point, it was very easy, for example, to get the token image on the right format. And this is something that maybe you had to use like Photoshop or something like that. And right now it can basically executing
photo what?
I don't know.
No. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, like, imagine back in the day you used to send the submissions with a pigeon, for the the challenge and all that. Like now look at this, everything is so fully automated. I don't know what people are going to do for a job, but this seems like this looks to me like a AI economy at work. Like lowering costs of finding information, submitting information. By a lot, it's 3.7x, 4x down, volume up, and this is, for the registry is great because you can source information and data way cheaper. But yeah, I don't know. So some other day we can do like a special call about technology and employment. I don't know.
Yes, and I think one way of thinking about this also is that the submitter is not like the the manual worker anymore. It's like the manager of the agents. So maybe one submitter in 1 hour can make I don't know 50 submissions, and before they maybe needed like 8 hours to do the same thing or more. And one thing, this we released the scout skills I think 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. So we will see the effects of that on the coming weeks and months. I'm started to check the submissions myself with a bot, so maybe other people are doing the same thing. So I think this will be pretty interesting to see. And another comment about this is that on the ATQ registry, we actually tag like lots of contracts in one single entry. So there are, for example, a couple of entries that tagged, I don't know, 1 million contracts or something. So and these are more complex to check because they require like special knowledge of JavaScript and like some technical knowledge. And this is something that maybe someone that couldn't check before, now with the help of the AI, they can do. So yeah, you could even try to make a submission without being super technical. So
what you're saying is
lower-
that if I'm not a technical person, I can still make money like through submissions to the registry because the barrier of entry is like lower, right?
Definitely, you can make money by making these submissions, by challenging, by reviewing, for example, these ATQ submissions that are technical, but maybe your bot can find an error, it can tell you to challenge it. So yeah, definitely.
I will tell my aunt Rosita from Curuzucuatiam that she can make some extra money like through making some agents, making submissions and claiming rewards. I'm sure that she will. Oh yeah, my friends are already doing that, So, but yeah, okay. Well, the
But,
agentic
but
economy.
imagine
Yeah.
someone that, for example, has a ChatGPT account, ChatGPT submission, and then I don't know, for a specific month you didn't use it a lot, and you have like extra usage that is going you're going to lose because you're not going to use it. You could basically tell ChatGPT to try to do this. So there's a chance that you can find like, good solutions.
Or what if I rent my unused ChatGPT capacity to you through some like tokenized derivative product, and then we split, whatever earnings you make with my unused computing power, that's a more interesting financial product, right? Okay, just
Yeah.
put DeFi into the process, right?
Just tokens.
And
So
then
tokens in the end.
tokenize, like a CDO based on that, on the unused capacity. I'm sure someone is already doing that, some options, markets, derivative. Okay.
Yes, there is actually at least one project doing that.
Oh really?
More.
Oh man, it never fails. It never fails. Okay.
Yeah.
What do we have? Anything else, Jean?
I think these are the main things, but we do have like more materials coming out on our channels. So as we mentioned on a couple of calls, we have Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts for short videos, and the accounts are growing, but everything always helps. So if you can follow us and give some likes and ask your friends to follow us, everything helps. And we are
Follows,
also
shares, and everything. Yeah.
Comments. Yeah, everything
Comments.
helps. And one thing that we started doing recently, we started posting some kind of digests of mentions of Kleros, or quotations of Kleros on academic papers, articles, and all of that. And we are starting to receive like some good feedback from universities and the people that wrote the papers. So this is pretty interesting too. So we'll probably post them weekly, but lately we have been receiving lots of mentions. So maybe we need to publish also about the individual articles, but yeah, really happy with that.
Yeah, and also we are going to revive our account at ResearchGate. You know, we had an account at ResearchGate. It's like social media for academics, and I opened that a long time ago, but we didn't really use it that much. But now our academia.org, we also have one there. We always start, you know, because there's so many people researching about Kleros, and we don't even know. I mean, we only catch those that are on the Google Scholar network, but what there's lots of like master theses and lots of people who are doing research that doesn't get tagged into the like a big journal, you know, circuit. But it's going to be cool, you know, because then lots of people doing their master thesis are doing like a Kleros for XYZ, you know, like thing that we never thought about. Like for example, Kleros in the horse industry. Could you use Kleros for dispute resolution between a buyer and a seller of a horse? Well, guess something, you can, and we actually found out like last week. So that's something we didn't see coming. I mean, I imagine how many people are doing like master thesis, LLM thesis, or whatever other thesis that like since it's not tagged into the journal, you know, traditional tagging system and go under the radar, and maybe we want to know about it. So this is going to, hopefully we will catch a few more in academia.org. I don't know, anything else, Jean?
No, I think that's it for today.
Thank you guys for coming, and see you next week at 6 p.m. UTC for the community call. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.